Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Earth from Team iGEM IIT Bombay. For those who are unfamiliar, the iGEM it stands for International Genetically Engineered Machine. So it is a competition where it is the world's largest synthetic biology competition where a student designs innovative projects with real world impact. At IIT Bombay, our team works on synthetic biology research and also its outreach. And through this podcast, we bring to aim inspiring voices from the world of STEM closer to all of you.
And I'm Fanny, also that part of Team iGEM IIT Bombay. And today's conversation is special because we are joined by someone who has been making STEM more engaging and approachable for students across the country.
So, our guest for today is Lavanya ma'am. So, she is the founder of Anvaya Biotech. So, what Anvaya is an organization dedicated to empowering society and advancing STEM education through hands-on learning, mentorship, and outreach. So, ma'am, you have also been part of official iGEM community, contributing as an mentor and ambassador. So, ma'am, we are truly honored to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the introduction, kind introduction. Um,
Uh, we are,
yeah, so like as you said, Anvaya actually means continuous education or making sense of or the logical connection between things. It's a Sanskrit word, which means that the way you arrange the words makes a lot of difference, right? In terms of whether it is meaningful or not. So Anvaya is that connection to make uh, something more meaningful. So that was the thought that I had with my experience. Um, so when I started this, the initial idea was just to give a hands-on training to make it as a core. Right now we are into the third year. What we realize is it's more than the hands-on training or biotechnology training or lab-based training. What we have to inculcate is the scientific thinking, the thought process of logical connection, making logical connection, right? So the cause and effect relationships. I think that is what we are trying to figure out how we will kind of bridge it and then gel it with the community, just not only for school going or college going students, but also to the community in general. So yeah,
Yes.
this is what we are doing for the last 3 years.
right. So uh, let's begin the podcast with a very basic question. So, as a woman founder in biotech education, you've navigated a space that isn't always easy. What has been the toughest challenge that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so one of the major challenges is very basic thing that the way we think. Okay, so let's start with a challenge like when I was trying to look for a space to rent, right? When I go and look for a space for renting, everything is okay. I kind of like came here, looked for a few places, and then finalized. So the thing that person who is going to rent it to me, the first thing he'll ask is, "Ma'am, भैया जी को बुलाइए," meaning my husband. Okay, so I don't know if it's true for everywhere in India or it is like this here, or I would imagine that more or less it would be the same, other than the big cities that we are talking about, like the metros or urban populations. I think more or less people and the way they talk to you, you will feel it that somehow, and it felt so insulting. But then, like now, I think that it's okay. I have to navigate this anyway, right? So I play to it. मैं खुद बोलती हूँ मैं मेरे हस्बैंड को ले आऊंगी फिर बात करेंगे so that वो जो feeling है because I have to think about the bigger picture, right? So I have to
Yes.
think what I'm trying to do instead of getting angry and frustrated about the situation. It's better to accept it and navigate through in a way that is as pleasant to all of us. It cannot be a battle on a daily basis. It cannot be because I don't see Anvaya as something that will stay only if I am here. So the plan for Anvaya is that I'm going to build a platform that people like you probably, like if we succeed, right, in future will engage with it or use it to do something, right? Whatever it is, it can be science communication And I want to bring something, your attention to something which is IGM has played a big role. Being a supervisor, being a mentor, having seen the change, because our systems are structured, right? In India or abroad. Like abroad, I see a little bit more flexibility probably. But in Indian scenario, our systems are extremely structured and they give very less space for any kind of creativity or progress or thinking differently, right? You are you are also in IIT Bombay, right? So there are a
Yes.
particular number of hours that you can spend on anything per week. And and in those hours also, it's extremely fixed what you have to do. So then how much time you can spend for what you want to do is very limited. Whereas IGM, in IGM, like, through IGM, what I realized is all the skills that you can map for a progressive career in various fields in the biosciences or in general sciences, you can explore them, right? So for
Yes.
example, like if you're talking about IHP, you're talking about social integration part as well. So there you can also include psychology if you're doing on, depending upon your problem, how people think, like why they're doing what they're doing, right? So now when I'm building this, I'm thinking in those lines. I'm thinking how we can make it, like let's say, more reasonable and more approachable to people who are also not from the science background but still engage with science. Because eventually, when you do basic research, you make it into a technology, and then what will you do? You'll apply in the field. The stakeholders are public, and they have
Yes.
to be aware of everything. So one of the major issues I think we face in India is when we talk about stakeholders and the public, we talk about those X% or like let's say, I will exaggerate it. I'm not really good in this stat, but maybe 20% of urban and semi-urban or town population that we talk about. What happens to those 80% of rural population? Yes. So one of my experience has been that, this NTB campaign that is launched by Government of India to, right? And then there is a lot of advertisement about Amitabh Bachchan was, I think, one of the ambassadors for it. But when I went to, as a part of one of the WHO projects, when I went to the villages around where I live, what we realized is people are not sure what are the symptoms of TB. The campaign is
Oh,
set, money is spent, we are advertising it, whether it is reaching the public that it has to reach. Because nobody is doing this ground analysis that what kind of channels that the rural India watches. Simple, like, what radio channels they listen to, which the FM they listen? Firstly, हम तो ad car
yes.
में चला रहे हैं, right? We don't think so, right? Like we don't know. There is no place where we can see, and of course we all know that it changes. पहले अमेजोन ही था, फिर नेटफ्लिक्स आया, सोनी लिव, जियो, all these. So like, things are always evolving in this domain of social media, and also like, how the news is being, newspaper से हम podcast तक आ गए, right? You're doing a podcast right now. So
Yes.
sometimes these days I hear daily podcasts. People are talking about news on podcast or a YouTube channel. So where we are advertising to whom and what we are intending to do, this makes a huge difference. So when we are talking about science at Anvaya, we are not only talking about the lab issues, but we are also talking about the local issues that we find that are interesting, that need to be addressed. So at least through our students, we intend to reach the parents and the families. Right? So I think the challenges are immense. In Madhya Pradesh or in India, I'm not sure how the trend is, because I definitely find that people who are pursuing science is going down day by day for variety of reasons, right? So how many colleges are offering MSc zoology or botany? I'm
Yes.
just saying, how many students are taking it up? Do we
Hmm.
know? So
No.
this is what Andrea
So,
intends to do. What is the grassroots scenario?
Yes.
We are
Going to
mostly
the
we are
base.
pardon?
Yes, going to the grassroots level. What's the current scenario?
Yes, when you
Yes.
work on the field, what we are realizing is people, like, as I said, my focus is not that 20% of 20% of population that stays in the urban regions. My focus is what happens to the rural India. So interestingly, it's not only me. There are a group of other people who are working on these kind of questions. So I interact with them, and then one of the things that one of them told me is that people don't choose their career based upon what they're interested in. In rural India, it's mostly what is being offered closer to them. मेरे घर के पास जो BSc या like whatever course is offered, उसमें से मैं कौन सा लूंगा, rather than मुझे ये करना है. And now you extrapolate it to, like, let's say, extrapolate it to women empowerment. What is happening there? The proportion of women who are able to come out of their house to pursue higher education, what do you think it will be? Being an Indian, let's not talk about ideal scenarios. Let's talk about realistic scenarios. Even in that population, a lot of men will be able to go out. The women, the girls who are in that age probably will choose whatever is closer to them, right?
Yes.
This is the point that we want to, and now, then let us extrapolate it to one more extent where NEP makes training programs mandatory, new education policy. What happens in those regions where there are no resources, where there are no systems that are established for training the students? So in Bhopal, students are coming to me. Let's talk about a rural Indian space where there is no Anvaya Biotech or no organization. What happens to those kids? Let's say the boys, again, there will be a variation between girl and boy kind of a thing, right? And we see it on a daily basis. Let's not be in this, like, utopia where we say that ऐसा नहीं होता है आजकल वैसा. ये आजकल वाला सिनेरियो नहीं चलेगा, because आजकल हम जहाँ पे जिस कम्युनिटी में रहते हैं वहां जो हम देखते हैं उस हिसाब से we cannot make a perception. If you go out beyond, then it is better, but it will take more time and it will need a lot of intervention strategies to be able to cover these things up. So that's the reason why we want to become an NEP implementation partner for organizations. See if we can reach out to places where we can go and give the quality, right? So there are multiple aspects that we are working on in this domain.
Yes, ma'am. Got it. Ma'am, another question, like, what was the spark? Like, what was the moment that lit it for you, like, for the Anvaya Biotech? Was it during your studies, or was it during your iGEM tenure, or was it related to a certain experience with some students or something? What has ignited the spark inside you?
Okay, to be very frank, I never considered education or being a teacher as my career option. Okay. So accidentally, I became a teacher. Right. I started my career at ICT Bhopal as a visiting faculty. Then it suited me. So, like, with whatever situation was there personally, I chose to continue. Also because I really enjoyed that interaction with undergrads. Okay. And that's the population that I'm really comfortable discussing things with, because I can see that there is a lot of hope and scope when we are talking about undergrads, right? Because you are wild, you have no limitations in terms of thinking. So we are more structured thinkers, right? Once you are going and you become a master's student, then you become a PhD student, then you're already, like what you say, you are already programmed to think in a particular way. Let me put it that way. Because the system actually makes you think in those directions. And of course, with the age, you get the sense of stability, what kya hoga aage, all these kinds of things you will have in mind, right? So, but then when you are talking about like undergrads, you don't have any problem thinking, like you can design experiment about anything. Two reasons. One is that you are not structured. The other reason is you don't know the limitations. And that's where I think maximum innovation can be achieved. Because if you're really guided in a particular way, and given your energy levels and the time that you spend on anything that you're obsessed with, I definitely think that undergrad age is the best age to explore and bring innovation as part of into our system. Okay, so in first couple of years itself, I had wonderful students who are still with me, who are in fact working towards building Anvaya with me, even if they are not here personally. So those interactions that I had, and how different it was from the time that I was a student, right? I was a student like probably like 15 years before I started as a faculty or a teacher, right? So the times have changed all the time, but that interest to do something, to pursue something always remained. So once I saw that I am more useful here, as you said, the interactions
Yes.
with those students, I wanted to continue as a teacher. And slowly I stopped, pursued research for some time, but then later on I thought probably like, there is something that is missing in this, especially when I started doing iGEM. I realized the Indian students are mostly like, when you were doing your graduation normally, none of your courses are about this IHP. They're not about education, right? You won't look into policy.
Yes,
Right.
But
ma'am.
iGEM is a place where you are talking about like all these aspects of science, because when you are implementing it, you need to consider all these things. From the lab to the field, if you take something, there is so much to consider about, right? Even if you're talking about drug designing, drug discovery, then when you go for clinical trials, you have to look a lot of different aspects. Acceptability is one of them, whether they will accept it or not. Right? One of these courses that I have taken again just before I started Anvaya, I think gave me another dimension. The course is from, it's a 5-week course by World Health Organization, MOOCs course on implementation research. Then once I took the course, I got interested. I started reading more, and that's when that's when I made a mind map for Anvaya Biotech, where we will not only be focusing on education capacity building, innovation, but at the same time, we will also look into implementation research and policy. Otherwise, I didn't have much experience about like this policy, how the policies are made and all that. Though I had a little brush over during the iGEM time, but that's the reason I say that iGEM, the way I look at it as it's given me the perspective that my entire education and the initial experience couldn't give me. The perspective of, let's say, building a platform, right? Probably if I was not associated with iGEM, probably I would have just done a teaching learning platform, right? It wouldn't be anything more than that. But just because, like through this, I read a lot during that period, interacting with the students. And some of my students who were part of those iGEM teams, they have taken up, like, alternate paths. Like one of them is pursuing PhD in biosafety and security. The other guy is a climate action fellow and now is working in corporate about sustainability. So this makes me happy to see that like people who don't see themselves as lab people, if they can pursue something else, but then at the same time build S&D culture, right? Like keep it as a core. I think my purpose would be solved if we can show people where they belong, right?
Right.
Yes.
Uh, so, moving forward, if you had to explain Anvaya Tech to a student who has never heard of it, how would you describe it? Probably not like stating the mission completely, but like explaining in simple layman words, if you could put it out.
So my Instagram handle says it all, right? From textbook to lab bench. Now I would extend textbook to lab bench to, let's say, to the field, to the grassroots. That's what I would say. So you read a lot of things in the textbook, right? The policies, I mean, the techniques and how they are done. So, but then in the lab, we try to teach them. Okay, so one thing that I was discussing with a few faculty in other countries as well. So now we have all these pre-made gels. You get SDS page count. I remember during my masters, we used to cast with glass plates. It was a big skill to cast a gel that would not leak with the limited resources that we had in the Indian scenario, right? So now you don't imagine that you'll have all these bio-rad apparatus with all the clips and all that are available. Okay, so but that is the reason that technique that I learned now became obsolete. We used to seal the glass plates with agar, pour the gel. Half of the time it would leak, right? And it's like, now you don't need all those skills anyway. There are more, the science is more advanced now, like the techniques have evolved. How did the techniques evolve? Because there were people who were struggling like me, found an innovative way, and a company that has picked it up, right? So for evolving into a better technical or technological society, we cannot forget the basics that you need to learn. The more confident and thorough you are with the basics, the better you will innovate. And this is my understanding. So this is what is Anvaya Biotech is all about. It can be a small statement or a small experiment, but what all you can do with that experiment, in how many different ways you can think about it, is what we teach at Anvaya Biotech.
Right. And has there been one workshop या फिर any student story that really stayed with you, like where you saw curiosity turn into real confidence, a specific incident, maybe?
Um, okay, so it's not a very positive one, right? But I will tell you this. So we had a wonderful student, the first, because it is very, and I will tell you this, and I will explain you why I think that this stayed with me, right? So when I joined, so my passion was something else, in the sense that it was related to science. I knew that my life will be with science. Where it will be, now when students ask me, this is what I tell, they're not sure, like, right? People who also have 9 CPA, they will, CGPA, they'll come and say, ma'am, is this enough? And say, like, if this is not enough, then what is enough? Right? So the point is, this insecurity will always stay with you. Okay? So I always tell them that I also didn't know that I will start Anvaya Biotech. No, I didn't know. Till like probably 2021 or 22 also, I was still thinking to be a independent researcher. I was writing up grants with the WHO, or like, I was thinking in those lines. I got one, then I was thinking of like, some small scale grants and doing something. And then slowly things snowballed into Anvaya Biotech. With all the experience that I had and with the mindset I had at that time, not mindset, the state of mind I was in at that time, it took somebody to say something, let's say, very unreasonable to me. Then I realized that, okay, this is the opportunity. I saw that unreasonable comment as an opportunity. And then one of the friends suggested that, why don't you start and then engage as an organization instead of an individual? So that's when I started it. So the story that I'm going to tell you is a student who was in first year when I took up my job. He was extremely keen in pursuing science, but then the problem was science. I would think that experimentation or scientific thought process is about making things simpler, and explain them. The scenarios or the the concepts or the experiments that you do are designed to simplify the knowledge that you have or things that are unknown. So he started in the lab, and then slowly what we realized is he is very good thinker. He can evaluate critically, but then because of this critical analysis, it goes beyond a point where he becomes very unsure about the controls that you are setting. So there is an experiment, you set a control, and then you have your experimental design. So he would set up another control for all this, the experimental design itself becomes too complicated to handle. And then eventually when you're sitting and your execution becomes stuck. And then eventually when you sit and analyze, it's too complicated to analyze as well. Okay. So then first year passed, and then he took up biology. This was in the first 2 years. So then he took up biology. Then he built so much of knowledge. He read so many papers, discussed, and wanted to pursue PhD in a particular field, was writing his SOPs. Suddenly one day he comes and tells that this is not for me. Okay.
Yes.
It was sad because I could see that he put a lot of effort into it. He's very good, but he realized, and it's negative for science, because I always saw him as somebody who can pursue science and take it to next level. As a student, he was good, and technically also he was strong. But then at some point he started getting demotivated and he lost. He is now an IAS. He cleared UPSCs, and now he's into Indian Administrative Services. So, but then he realized at that time. So I felt very sad initially, but then later on I realized. Now when I'm in the field also, I realized one thing that mostly people won't realize, because if you sit in a institution or an organization and you're teaching people, you get similar kind of people aspiring to be in similar kind of jobs, right? I am sitting outside. I get people from different organizations. So everybody is studying science for a different motto, different reason. So this experience has stayed with me. Now I think about the same thing very differently. People don't pursue. So when I am, let's say, if I am a PhD supervisor, I would think that my student should publish very good papers, right? Take up a professor job or go to a company. But now I think it's okay if somebody decides to do PhD and just not do anything, or maybe just stays home. It's not a bad thing. They will contribute wherever they are. This training will help them contribute wherever they are, do whatever they do, and the people they will touch as part of their lives. This experience will definitely go on.
Right.
Right. So this is so when you said about a story, I think this is, I don't know, like now, especially in Madhya Pradesh, when I go and talk to people, when I see it, no experience can be taken away from anybody. That experience teaches you discipline. PhD needs extreme amount of commitment and discipline. And that, I think once that is done, they're set for their life if they take it positively. Where no matter what they do, no matter where they are going to contribute. And we should stop judging people for making these choices, right? So this is something that stayed with me. Now in fact, I promote people. Do what you like, but try and use your scientific temperament and thought process in whatever you do. If you can do that, our job is done, right?
Yes.
They should be happy in whatever they do.
Right. Uh, so let's move forward. Let's talk about a bit on synthetic biology and iGEM. So SynBio and iGEM have become really very important for how young people experience cutting edge science. So from your perspective, how can synthetic biology be introduced in a way that's approachable for high schoolers?
This is something that we've been thinking for some time. I had this discussion with the previous 3 years of iGEM and ambassadors, like for India as well. And even in the last meet, when we met, we sat and we discussed for some time. Indian scenario is very, very, very different. Okay? It is very different because we are mostly private education based, right? There are more private schools than government schools. Right. And in the government schools, you know how it works. So let's not get into that. So in the private schools also, then again, there are categories. So one major disadvantage would be we don't have a universal system from top to bottom of India. There are no national. I know that there is CBSE, there is ICSE board, which are national boards, but there are also state boards. The syllabus is varied. So you have to make it as an independent system, but you can never integrate it directly with the curriculum, or You cannot go from like the same particular aspects cannot be taught to students in Jammu and Kashmir and let's say Tamil Nadu. It's not possible because of the varied curriculum that is there in the state boards, though it is simpler. So I think what will definitely help is if we can make it, this is what we are working on. So now this is a challenge that we face at the undergrad level also. The standard of the students is very different in each demographic, right? Even in Madhya Pradesh, within the Madhya Pradesh, there is difference. So whenever we design courses, whenever we take the courses to them, we try to go from zero. The whole course is from, like we talk about structure, sequence structures before we even get central dogma, before we even teach any kind of bioinformatics, even though the project would be about bioinformatics. So we take from level 0 to up. I think that's one way we can think about. And if you can design a course and then probably like more than the students, I think the approach should be teacher training programs. And future is synthetic biology for sure. Usme koi doubt nahi hai. Because now the government of India has announced this Bio E3, right? So last year only, after so many years, there is a white paper about synthetic biology that was published. Till last year, there is not much about synthetic biology in our policies and documents. Though Department of Biotechnology India was sometime back sponsoring, there was this competition called IBEC, through which they sponsored the teams who are going registering for iGEM. They used to give 10 lakh rupees or something for each team. Initially, they gave 5 teams, I think, in 2016 or something. So it's like now we are into this thing. Bio E3 is about biotechnology for employment, economy, and environment. So it's mostly about how we can use biotechnology for to transform chemical process into biological processes. So then, of course, it is in the synthetic biology becomes the center of all these things. So anybody who wants to do anything related to synthetic biology, this is the perfect time. There is funding, there is that ecosystem that is being built. If you follow DBT on any of these social media platforms, you can see their initiatives. They will probably be there trying to develop these biofoundries and all these things. So I would think that capacity building, building the teachers required to synthetic biology is the first step that we need to do if we really want to introduce synthetic biology to the schools, rather than thinking about directly going to the students because of this scenario of variation in the standards, or let's not say standards, the variation in the syllabus curriculum that is there in all the states. I can't hear you. You're mute.
Oh, sorry. So, ma'am, you have been, since you are involved with iGEM officially as a mentor. So, ma'am, could you tell us like how that journey began, like how you joined iGEM? And a follow-up question for this is, if someone not wants to join iGEM, not as a team, but as a judge, as an ambassador or a mentor, like to be a core part of it. So how could he join? He or she can join.
Okay. So for me, the journey started in 2015. Okay. So I was teaching the students, and I randomly came across. I was looking for something related to. I think we were looking for some other competition. There is this Wipro competition. There was there net zero. Okay, so we were exploring about the net zero competition. Then I came across a team project related to the project that we were doing. We were trying to come up with. So then we said, okay, so then I came across this, and then I had like a few students who always would come with research papers and discussions about these things. So I mailed them, would you be interested? So we came up with a project, but unfortunately for me, till that point, mostly all the grants I have written were research grants or proposals, right? So I really didn't understand what iGEM was all about. I'll be very honest with you. So the project we have written was like a big project. But then, like, the students wrote, it's not me. They came up with this idea that we want to do this. And then we couldn't get through because it was already late. We started in February. So the next year of that, I started pushing, like I started telling the students, like, then I explored the website, saw what the teams were doing. Then slowly it snowballed again, like, after some time, we had for the first team for iGEM. During that process, whatever I faced, because I was the only one who was reading all through these documents and getting the team ready, it was too much. Neither I didn't know whom to ask to. Even the other teams which were participating, they were participating on and off. It's not like India se teams ja rahe the, 3, 4 ऐसा करके जा रहे थे. But some teams will do 1 year, the other team will do the other year, and the rules change. So nobody were able to help a lot, like, and then we really had to sit and read all these and figure out how we have to interpret them. This is another thing. So whatever is being told, how to interpret them is another thing, right? So that journey was very tough. I was sleeping very little. As a co-PI, it's like, that year was, I still remember the first team lead and me were really trying to figure out how, because the administration also didn't know of the institute. If we are making some request, they didn't know how to, address that request. It's not that they didn't want to, but they were just not equipped. It's not routine. So from there to the lab, finishing things, it was very tough. We didn't have enough background as well in terms of what IHP is, what HP is. It took a long time to understand. So that's when I decided that I think a couple of years later, when iGEM started this mentorship program, I joined and I was part of those panel that was deciding who the mentor would be. For each team, mentor recruitment was happening. I think that was a good experience. We could see people coming up with different kinds of challenges. Some people didn't have money. And most of the common problem is sponsorship, especially in countries that are like other than US and Europe. I think mostly African teams or South Asian teams or Asian teams in general, we all have this problem of funding. The students want to, but they don't know how to get the funding. We don't have that ecosystem as well. As I said, our systems are also, our structured educational systems are also very structured. There is no scope. So if you see the list of the teams that are participating in India right now, you will see all these ISEs and ICERs. Not all of them, but most of them are, other than a couple of them. MAHE and VIT have been always, like, MIT and VIT, they are always going. I think one other team, MAHE, goes on and off. So it's like other teams are like sometimes they go, sometimes they don't go like that. But then mostly all the teams, now I see that IITs are joining. Previously, IITs were not part of it. Very few IITs were, but now ICERs have gone back and then IITs are picking up. So I think mostly funding and all. So we tried to, so what the reason why I took this mentorship is because I know how challenging it is. And I've seen students working till 2 o'clock as an overload. It's not part of your credit system, right? You do it as an overload and still you're committed. And I used to see the students going out, like, working late in the night in the lab after their classes, planning their studies, losing their grades, being unhappy and happy about it at the same time. This is normal. So that's when we thought that there has to be some kind of system to support, and that's and definitely iGEM has a good structured way for those who want to enter into this iGEM. Like being a judge or in the community, I think there will be some opportunities available for people who are not experienced in iGEM. In every committee, I think there is one, I don't know, there is a term for it, I cannot remember it. But so people, normally they ask people who are experienced in iGEM competition, but sometimes there will be 1 or 2 posts in some categories where they will seek anybody who is interested in iGEM. The first thing that anybody who wants to be involved need to see the structure of the competition, what is expected of the, why it is being done, how it is being done. So after that, you can be part of the community, like, wherever there is a possibility of others joining in. I think it will be clearly mentioned whenever they call for the applications for different positions. They'll mention that there will be 2 slots or 1 slot available for people who don't have the experience of iGEM but still want to be part of it. I think I know one of them. Like, and also there are some other competitions. I think Sana Jalili is one of the Bombay. She's from Bombay. She is very active. Now she's doing her PhD, I guess. So she came to iGEM through the other aspect, but not from another project, but not through the competition or the structured iGEM competition as such.
I see. Now let's cover a bit brief about the outreach and social media aspect. So, you've reached students through workshops, but you've also been very active on Instagram and other social media platforms. So, why was social media such an important part of your mission? And secondly, what kind of content do you find that resonates most with the students? Like, probably it could be quick reels or hands-on experiments or longer workshops.
Okay, so as I said earlier, during that project that I have done, the implementation research project I have done, what I realized is we have to change in the way we think, because the times I can clearly see pre-Instagram and post-Instagram students. It's evident to me, clear, like I can see that there is a huge difference. Okay.
Right.
So if we don't adapt, if I don't adapt, I'll become obsolete. There is, and at some point all of us will become, that is for sure. मैं तो मतलब ऑर्कुट के डेज से आ रही हूँ ना, तो वो जमाना था, right? I still tell students, like, there was a time in my hometown. I'm from southern part of India. Vijayawada is my hometown. So I had to go, let's say, 8 or 9 kilometers from my home to access internet in an internet cafe by paying 80 rupees per hour, where mostly system would say buffering. So to even access one single website, it would take me like 20 minutes. But then we had to spend that time if we have to apply and want to. And I would say I was lucky, because I probably, I'm a little okay with adapting to new things. I don't find it hard. So I was able to manage. Okay. So from there till here, I think the journey, what I realized always is it's always good to keep up to the trend. At some point, I probably will find it hard to keep up, but as long as I can. That's the reason why Instagram, and I find that most of the kids are Instagram. I have a teenage daughter. She tells me, Mama, everybody is on Instagram in her high school, not even high school, middle school. Okay. She doesn't have an Instagram account. So if I have to convey something, or like if I have to build a business, let's say, that is directed to youngsters, then I have to be on Instagram. It's as simple as that. That is the place where they hang around, right? I think you guys are also like that. Everywhere we go. So sometimes I see people doing random things. पहले मुझे समझ नहीं आता था what these guys are doing. Now I know, okay, they are making a reel. So I just walk by. Previously, I used to think that what's happening here, and now that I'm posting myself, if as far as most engaging thing is concerned, okay. So if I look at my analytics, I find anything that talks about newer opportunities, okay, something that they don't know, really excites them in any format. It can be just a carousel. It can be just a photo that you post and you write your hook based on, like, what is written on that. Anything that gives them a hope for future, better prospect for future. It will be a huge hit. I mean, because let's say that because I am an edutech company and then we are getting into education, so most of my followers are also like that. But I think this is something that really resonates with them when we talk about, of course, anything related to climate change. You mentioned any technology that is related to climate change. Definitely. I think this generation is ready to save the world. I think I personally think so, because when we post something, when we say something, I get maximum response, and then they in fact DM their ideas to us when we are. So sometimes we just post a picture from the newspaper, let's say. So Times of India का एक science version आएगा evoke करके. So you take it. I find something interesting, I just post it, and then you see the number of DMs that we get based upon what is given there. It's really interesting. It's not, there is hope. There is still hope.
Yes, I'm right. And so, am I audible now?
Yes.
Then, so now looking forward, like if you had to imagine like STEM education in specifically towards India, like from 10 years from now, like what do you see? Like there would be more labs, more startups, like more collaborations.
I think so. I think definitely. I think I can see the change in last 3-4 years. The change is not universal, I would say, like in the sense that it's not same in all the states across India, but there is difference. Like, there are a lot of initiatives of the government that are start that the government has started, like, tinkering labs and other, like, Atal Innovation Centers, funding for BIRAC. The number of BioNest is also increasing in last 5 years. We have seen there are a lot of initiatives that are. So now, initially we used to have a centralized system, kind of like, Delhi, Bangalore, like, there are specific places which are good, like Pune or Bombay. But now there are places where they are starting incubation centers on a regular basis. Definitely innovation, things are going to change in next 10 years. But it all, again, I said, it all depends on how we deal with this capacity building thing, how we deal with training the trainers and educators and the next generation students. Because it doesn't help just to build big uh, buildings and creating the infrastructure. You need quality people to work in those setups, right? So I think that's what that's what I experience on a daily basis. Even for Anvaya, if I want to hire somebody from Madhya Pradesh, then I'll have to think. There are people, I'm not saying there are, but then the good people always are moving out. It's true for every place, right? Bangalore seems to be, for most of the biologists, I think Bangalore seems to be a hub, right? Or Delhi, or maybe Lucknow. Like, there are places where there are multiple opportunities available. Let's put it that way, right? But when we are talking about, like, if I have to build a bio manufacturing unit in Madhya Pradesh, so then I'll have to think about capacity. Like, let's say, so somewhere I read something, it talks about breakneck growth, which means that you are ready for the scale up, but then you have not made your systems ready, or you have not recruited enough people with caliber, where then your organization completely collapses even after building to a particular level. Entrepreneurship may, which when I was reading through, I realized this. And I find it may happen to me too. If I don't train enough people, and then, like, bring them already into the system even before we reach a point, I think this is going to, and this is the story with India also. As you said, I can see it growing, but I think major challenge at this point is to create that quality personnel who can work in those systems that we are building. So all the startups will become, let's say, big companies at some point. 7 to 12 years is the time frame that we are looking at. Once a startup is established, from there, 7 to 12 years, we are looking at it to reach its peak. Let's say that. So then we need to have so many people who can work in the scale up as well, right? I think that I think is a problem right now. Only IITs, ICERs, and all these central universities only cannot match up, like, to that. We have to really figure out another way we are going to deal with this capacity building.
Agreed. Agreed. So to sum up, finally, like if you had to summarize Anvaya Biotech's impact in one sentence, what would it be? And what impact is it creating on the society?
Yeah. So for that, I think at different level, we have different, I mean, there is objective is very different. So let's say that for me, at the moment, mostly we are working with undergrads. If I can retain at least 10% more undergrads in science after their bachelor's, and then help them pursue sciences as their career, I think, I mean, 10% of who are coming to me. I'm not talking about, because, we can't change the world. We can't change the systems. We can only do so much. So, jitne mere paas aa rahe, and I think I'm successful in that, because recently we had 5 dissertation students who did their dissertation project with us in the last academic session. So one of them, when she joined us, she was not sure what she wanted to do, where she wanted to go. She said, I may do this, I may do that. Now she joined us as a technician here. I think she was able to make that choice that she enjoyed the lab the most and she wanted to continue science. So I think this is the kind of impact that we want to see, at least the people who want to continue or who want to pursue science, who have taken up science, whether if they're able to figure out stay, and then I can keep them in science, the good students, if I can keep them in science and pursue science, I would be very happy. Of course, beyond that, we anyway, society is another thing. As I said, cause and effect, even in the rural regions, at least we can show through science if we can make the society more scientific thinking oriented. I think their choices will be better. For any society to progress, I think this scientific thinking is very important. And this will help them to differentiate what is good for them. Let's not talk about right and wrong. That is very subjective. I think what we can mostly, I would say that if they can differentiate between um, what is good for them and what is not, right? If they can decide that, if they can go in that path, what helps and what doesn't help for them and then for their families, of course. I think that's what we want.
Uh, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, and finally, for like there are so many students and even organizations like who would love to connect with you or even collaborate with you. So, like, what's the best way for them to reach out?
So in the website, we have given our phone number, and so they can connect us with the website. There's a form they can fill, or call us on the number given on the website. Anything is okay with us.
So
We would really
we
try to
would
build
put
this
the
platform. Uh,
yes, we would put the Anvaya Biotech's link in our description for that.
Bharat?
Yes, we would put the Anvaya Biotech's link in our description and the phone number so they could reach out.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We can do that.
This was from our side. Like now, if you want to add something for the viewers, like you could add something.
So for all the iGEM teams, I would like to say, especially Indian iGEM teams, I would say, right? I know the challenges. I think most of you had your midsems just now. So I think some of them will be having in the next week, I'm not sure. But I think it is the time you really have to gear up, and your approach has to be very direct in terms of tick the boxes. Don't work towards going the best, being the best, or okay, that is one of the aims. But if you don't tick the boxes, you won't be eligible. So tick the
Yes.
boxes. Think in terms of, for all the time, all the people who are watching, who are participating in iGEM. I think the most important thing is don't take it till the end for the deadline. So just tick the boxes before, earlier, and then if you want to improvise, there is always scope for improvement. Anyway, there is always scope for improvement. And for everybody else, I think science has to become part of our lives. It is part of our life. But then scientific thinking, I think if we can inculcate it, all these stress will go away. If we can figure out what is more important, what is less important, when it is important, right, at every stage in your life, in every day of your life, what you need to focus on. Some things are trivial. If you can leave them out, develop some kind of logic, I think life becomes happier for all of us. And I would like to also mention this thing that the guy Aman Gupta, I think, airports was a best thing. What is this?
The
Aman Gupta.
boat, the co-founder
Boat.
of boat.
The boat guy. I like one of his statements that he said, remember what your parents taught you. Always in your life. I really like the statement of his. He was talking about unicorns, business or something, and then he tweeted a few days back, never forget what your parents taught. I think that is a very, very important thing that all of you have to remember. Basic values have to be maintained for you to be happy. This is conventional wisdom. Whatever you learn in your life is on one side, right? Whatever you experience in your life. But conventional wisdom should never be kept aside. So remember what your parents taught, stick to it, be happy, and do what makes you happy. Yeah. So you
Yes,
can
ma'am,
reach out
right.
anytime. Yeah. Good luck. So I definitely think that this time things will be better. Plan your experiments better. And mostly, so how many from your team are going?
Uh, this year, Jamboree, ma'am, we are going a team of 7.
It's good. Good team.
Uh,
Good.
Ma'am, can we record an outro first, then we can talk just for the recording
Sure, sure,
with you?
sure.
Yes. So, yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your journey and insights. This was really a truly inspiring conversation.
And to our listeners, remember, science isn't just in textbooks, it's in everything around us. So stay curious and stay inspired. This is Penny.
And Earth signing off. Thanks for tuning in.